All right, now that we've got our walker moving across the stage, we're going to add a little bit of complexity here and put a setting in place. All right, so before we do that, we'll name this layer and we'll call this walker 1. And we'll make a background. So our little page turn at the bottom here, call it background. And obviously a background should be on the bottommost layer. So we've dragged it down to the bottom. And we'll choose a nice color for the sky, so a nice shade of blue here. And all we'll do is draw a rectangle for the sky. And just with a nice green. And make a rectangle for the grass. Now we don't have to be too careful about the edges because we won't see anything that overflows the edge of the stage. Okay, so we can render that and take a peek. And so there we got a bit of a setting. Okay. Now one of the powers of Flash is that we can reuse these symbols. So I want to take that walker and get him walking back the other way. But remember, we don't have his legs in there, so we need something to hide the fact that he doesn't have legs. So we'll add in another layer here and put in a hedge so that it's hiding his legs, or will be hiding his legs. Okay, so we'll draw that. I'll get a slightly darker shade of green for that. Now it's on a new layer, and it's going to be above the background layer, obviously. Okay, so we'll do a rough outline, and I'm just drawing it kind of stylized and bumpy, so it's kind of like the leaves sticking out from the hedge, and then something kind of straight across the bottom here. And we'll put in some stylized lumps like they're bulges in the hedge. I can see here that the shape didn't close quite nicely, so we'll close that off. And just very stylized. Maybe a couple over here. Okay, and then we need to fill that in obviously with a color. So let's choose a different shade of green and fill that in. Okay, so now we've got a hedge. Okay, so to get a second walker in here, we can only animate one symbol per layer. And the walker needs to go in front of the background, but behind the hedge. So the new layer has to go between these two. And we should probably name this our hedge layer here. All right, so we'll add a new layer in. Now we can't have him coming back until he's finished walking all the way to the right side of the stage. So we're going to click over here on the second walker and put a keyframe there. Keyframe meaning this is a new key point in my animation. Obviously we'll have to extend the background, so we used about 50 frames for the first walker, so we'll use about 50 frames again for the second walker, and to fill it in obviously F5. And we'll bring the hedge over, F5. So clicking on this new layer, we should name that our walker 2. And we're making sure that we're on that frame. We'll go to our library and we'll bring the walker in again. Okay, so now he's too big. So we're using the transform tool. And we'll make this smaller. Quite a bit smaller. But he's facing the wrong way because we want him to go from the right side over to the left side. And the best way to do that is to use the modify menu. And we're going to do a transform and flip horizontal. Okay, so now he's facing the other way. So we'll get him. Here's his starting point. We got to give him some time on the timeline. Right now he's only got 1 frame, so we'll put some time here. We'll F5. So he's got the time on the timeline. Create a tween or convert that to a tween. And then go to his last frame. Where is his location here? Well, it'll be on the left side of the stage. All right, so as we scrub this, so here he is at the beginning. just a little bit of time here where there's nothing happening, and then he goes behind the hedge. So let's render that and see how it all plays together. So there he is in front and behind, in front and behind. And that's a nice believable animation. If you really want a challenge, see if you can add a cloud moving slowly in the background across the back of the sky. That'll be some bonus marks when you're handing in your work.